Hello everyone. What if the same fungus that once caused entire villages to burn with madness and gangrene is now sitting quietly in your hospital pharmacy as a life saving medicine? Today we are going to explore the ergot paradox, the medical story of ergot poisoning, tracing its journey from ancient plagues and witch trials all the way to modern pharmacology, and how a microscopic fungal assassin became a life saving cure. Let us start with some of the darkest chapters in history connected to this fungus. Saint Anthony's fire occurred during the Middle Ages when damp springs and cold winters bred toxic rye, which was a staple food across Europe. By summer, whole villages suffered from burning limbs and gangrene, and monks of the Order of Saint Anthony became the primary caretakers of these victims, which is how the affliction got its name. The dancing plague occurred between the 14th and 17th centuries, with outbreaks of uncontrollable dancing and convulsing spreading across Europe, sometimes lasting for days. This often resulted in severe injury or death, and modern epidemiological analysis points to ergot poisoning as a primary environmental trigger behind these outbreaks. Then there were the Salem Witch Trials of 1692, where young girls in Salem, Massachusetts exhibited skin lesions, hallucinations, temporary blindness, and convulsions. These symptoms were misdiagnosed as bewitchment, leading to the imprisonment of 150 people and the execution of 19. It took centuries before science finally understood what was happening. In the 19th century, mycologist Louis René Toulon finally linked rye consumption to ergotism. The culprit behind all of this was identified as Claviceps purpurea. There is a key distinction worth understanding here. Unlike aspergillus, ergot does not grow during post-harvest storage. Instead, it actively infects robust food grains like rye, wheat, barley, and oat directly in the field during their vulnerable flowering stage. Interestingly, high-yielding modern crop varieties have shown increased susceptibility to this ancient pathogen. Let us walk through the fungus's life cycle. It begins with an airborne assault where wind, insects, and damp spring rain splash Claviceps purpurea spores onto uninfected grain flowers. This leads to what is called the sugary slime stage, where the fungus destroys the plant ovary, replacing it with a spore-rich yellow slime called Sphaecalia sagatum, which attracts insects. Next comes the dark spur stage, where the soft tissue hardens into a dark purple ergot spur known as Sclerotium clavus, rapidly accumulating toxic alkaloids and lipids. During winter survival, the hard exterior protects the fallen spur on the ground through the harsh winter snows. Finally, in spring rebirth, the ergot sprouts mushrooms, releasing a new generation of spores into the air to restart the entire cycle. Now, let us look at the toxic arsenal this fungus produces, known as ergoline based alkaloids. Their purpose is to serve as secondary metabolites, acting as an antimicrobial defense system and insect deterrent for the fungus. This is driven by what is called the genetic engine, a massive 14 gene cluster spanning 68.6 kilobases on the fungal genome, dedicated to ergot alkaloid synthesis. There is also significant environmental variability, sometimes called the toxic cocktail effect, with over 40 distinct alkaloids isolated so far. The specific composition and lethality are heavily dictated by local soil composition and seasonal weather, which means no two outbreaks are ever chemically identical. So, how do these alkaloids actually hijack the human body? The mechanism of action can be described as systemic hijacking, occurring in three stages. The first is receptor overload, where ergot alkaloids chemically impersonate neurotransmitters, aggressively binding to receptors meant for serotonin, dopamine, and epinephrine. The second is smooth muscle spasm, where this widespread activation forces the smooth muscles lining internal organs and major arteries to violently contract. The third is vascular strangulation, where blood flow slows to a halt, depriving downstream tissues of oxygen and triggering rapid cellular death. Historically, ergotism revealed itself in two very different forms depending on geography. Gangrenous ergotism was historically seen west of the Rhine in regions like France, Britain, and the Americas. Its primary mechanism was vascular strangulation and severely restricted blood flow, and its hallmark symptoms matched St. Anthony's fire. Intense burning pain progressing to coldness, with tissues suffering dry gangrene turning black, and in severe cases, self amputating. Convulsive ergotism, on the other hand, was historically seen east of the Rhine. In regions like Scandinavia and Central and Eastern Europe, its primary mechanism was central nervous system receptor overstimulation, since the alkaloids mimic LSD. Its hallmark symptoms included painful muscular spasms, rigid postures, profound delirium, temporary blindness, and vivid hallucinations. Remarkably, only 6 recorded instances in history show both forms occurring in the same outbreak. Let us look closer at the human pathophysiology involved. The early warning signs are gastrointestinal, including nausea, repeated vomiting, abdominal cramping, and severe diarrhea, accompanied by headache, weakness, and generalized itching or tingling sensations. Next comes the vascular crisis affecting the extremities, with 60 to 70% of vasospasms affecting the legs and feet. This progresses through stages, starting with coolness and paleness, then muscle pain upon activity, then muscle pain even at rest, then a lack of pulse, and finally tissue death. In rare cases, it can even trigger life-threatening thrombosis. Finally comes the neurological collapse affecting the brain, presenting as severe dizziness, psychosis, seizures, and ultimately coma. This toxin also takes a heavy toll on agriculture and livestock, known as ergotoxicosis. In terms of vascular and gangrene effects, just as humans lose fingers and toes, livestock suffer coldness, swelling, and the sloughing off of hooves, ear tips, and tail switches. Neurologically, sheep and horses exhibit staggering, severe muscle tremors and spasms. On the reproductive front, the toxin mimics human uterine contraction, causing premature abortion, especially in horses and pigs, and severe agalactia, which is a complete lack of milk production after birth. Thermoregulatory effects include extreme heat stress, since vasoconstriction prevents animals from cooling themselves, forcing them to stand in water continuously and leading to rapid weight loss. Fortunately, agriculture has developed effective defenses to break this cycle. One method is density based separation. Because ergot bodies accumulate lipids and are less dense than healthy grain, immersing the harvest in a 20% saltwater solution forces the toxic spurs to float for easy skimming, while healthy food grains safely sink. Additional protocols include air flotation and screening, which uses industrial air currents to separate lighter fungal masses, along with pasture management involving immediate removal of livestock from infected pastures and rigorous inspection of grass seed heads before grazing. When it comes to modern medical management of ergotism, there are 3 key steps. Step 1 is immediate cessation, discontinuing consumption of contaminated grain or ergot-based medications. Crucially, patients must stop caffeine and tobacco use immediately, since these compound vascular constriction. Step 2 is flow restoration, administering vasodilators to force blood vessels open, utilizing antiplatelet therapy to prevent thrombosis in stagnant blood pools, and deploying anti-seizure medications to manage convulsive symptoms. Step 3 is surgical intervention, where if angiography reveals abrupt arterial narrowing progressing to resting pain and gangrene, surgical amputation of dead tissue becomes necessary to save the patient's life. This brings us to the true medical paradox at the heart of this story. There is a classical principle, sola dosis facit venenum, meaning the dose makes the poison. Looking at this across history, in 1582, midwives used three intact ergots to advance stalled labor. Though poor dosing often led to stillbirths, a practice grimly referred to as pulvis ad mortem. By 1935, ergometrine was purified, working through the mechanism of uterine contraction, and its modern use involves precise doses that prevent postpartum hemorrhage, which remains a major cause of maternal mortality. Similarly, in neurology, in 1918, ergotamine was purified, working through the mechanism of cranial vasoconstriction. Its modern use involves contracting dilated arteries in the head to treat severe long duration migraines, and researchers are currently exploring similar therapies for Parkinson's disease and dementia. So, to summarize the key takeaways from this topic, Claviceps purpurea is a field fungus that hijacks flowering crops, replacing healthy grains with dark alkaloid rich sclerotia. Modern science eventually eradicated mass plagues caused by this fungus by exploiting its physical density through saltwater flotation, along with implementing rigorous supply chain screening. Physiologically, ergoline alkaloids mimic neurotransmitters, triggering violent smooth muscle spasms that lead to either central nervous system collapse in the convulsive form or severe vascular starvation in the gangrenous form. And finally, the pharmacological paradox reminds us that the exact mechanisms which once caused medieval plagues and livestock ruin, namely vasoconstriction and organ contraction, are now harnessed in highly controlled doses to stop migraines and prevent postpartum hemorrhage. Hope you have understood about the topic ergot poisoning. If you found this video useful, please like and share with your friends and colleagues. Thank you.